This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the class. Can you all see the screen and hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for
yes,
confirming.
madam.
Please keep muted, and if you have any questions, you can unmute and speak out. And thank you all for confirming. So let's get started. In the last class, we were learning about what is DevOps, why DevOps came in. Like we got a big picture of what is DevOps is all about, right? So today we'll proceed and we'll talk about the lab setup, like how we are going to create our environment for executing our CI/CD pipeline. So before creating the lab, to understand thoroughly what we are doing here, let us talk about few basics of the operating system, virtualization concept, and so on. Okay, so these are the very basics, and these are the basics which everyone should have. Like if you are working in IT, everyone should have these kind of basics, irrespective of whether you are a developer or a tester or a DevOps engineer or whoever you are. Okay, so let us go and talk about few fundamentals. You might be aware of few of them. So let's recollect, let's revise those things. So first, let's talk about what is an operating system. So what is an operating system? Let us forget about these definitions. Let us see what it is all about. Can you all see the black screen? It was just stuck up. Give me a second. Okay. So let us understand the importance of operating system, what it does. See, let's suppose I have my computer. Okay, in that computer, in my laptop, let's say, I want to work with some application. Let's say I just want to simply open a Word document. Like let's suppose this is my laptop. I just want to open some Word document, or else let's say I want to open some application, or else I want to open some WhatsApp application, whatever, right? Or else I just want to open some Chrome browser. So to do any of these things, I should have operating system installed on my laptop. Am I correct? Let's say you have a laptop, but you don't have any operating system installed on it. Can you do any of these tasks I have mentioned? Yeah, can you do that? Can you open any application? Can you just open any Word document? Can you do any of them? Or else can you work with any browser? Obviously no, right? Means to work with your laptop, you need to have some or the other operating system installed on it, correct? So what is meant by operating system then? Operating system is nothing but a software which will connect your hardware components of your laptop with the software applications. Meaning it's a software or a program which will help us connect the hardware of your laptop with the software applications. Meaning, let's say I'm having my laptop, right? Like it's having some memory, some CPU, right? So you have, these are all the hardware components, and it might be having some input output devices like mouse, keyboard, and so on, right? So these are all hardware, but how do I interact with these hardware components? Or else if I want to open an application, let's say I want to open a browser, that's a simple task I want to do. So first, browser should be installed, means it should have some memory, some CPU utilized, and it will work. So how can this browser utilize this memory and CPU from the hardware? Right? Directly it cannot. So it will be interacting via something called operating system. Means operating system is a software or a program which will allocate resources to these components. Sorry, which will allocate resources to your applications, like maybe a browser, maybe a Word document, or any other application, right? To interact with your devices like speakers or a mouse, your operating system works like an intermediate layer by allocating the resources to the applications, correct? So that is what is an operating system. And again, there are different operating systems, isn't it? You might have heard, you might be using different operating systems like Mac OS, Windows, and Linux and so on. Again, there are different distributions, different versions of them, correct? So there are multiple operating system, whether it is Windows, Linux or Mac, whatever it is, the basic functionality of operating system is the same, right? Like it provides a communication. It helps you work with your software components. It helps you to manage resources to your applications. Thereby your applications can be working, correct? So first on your hardware, this is how your operating system would be. This is your hardware with some memory, CPU. On that you will have an operating system above which you can work within any of these applications, right? So what is this operating system doing here? It is working like a layer between your software and hardware components. It will also take care of allocating resources from your hardware to this software applications, like your application 1, let's say it's a browser, 2, it's a Word document. So each of them may need some memory, CPU and so on, right? Some RAM and all. All these resources allocation can be done by this operating system, correct? Or the resource allocation, the memory management, all these would be taken care of. Santosh, can you please keep muted? So this is what basically an operating system does. Like we discussed, yeah, there are different operating systems. In our personal life, yeah, we are having our own laptop with the operating system of our preference, right? Now, which operating system should be used in the real world? Which operating systems are used? It's again a point of like, it depends on many features like security, right? And then it is also about the lightweight, like your operating system should be light, right? So that it consume less resources on the hardware. And also it should be more effective to use when you are working with huge number of files or huge number of folders, right? It should be more effective to use that, right? So these are all the main features taken into consideration when the operating system is chosen. And in majority of the OS servers in real time are Linux based, right? That's one thing, because the major differences when you talk about Linux and Windows are, Windows is having a great UI, graphical user interface. Means if you want to work with the file system is nothing but your files and folders, right? You can just work with the GUI, like by double clicking you can create files, folders and so on, right? And because it provides a great UI, it's easy to use, like as an end user, from the end user perspective, it's easy to use, right? But it's heavy. And also Windows operating system, like it's a costly, it's an expensive. When you talk about Linux, majority of the Linux distributions we use in the real world as a server operating systems are CLI based. Means you don't have a graphical user interface. From the command line, from the terminal, you work with the operating system. It's not so difficult. Maybe as a beginner, it might seem to be totally different from the GUI, but it is very effective method. Also, because it don't have GUI, it's a lightweight and it is more secure. Okay, this is more secure. Like firewall rules or virus attacks are very less in Linux compared with the Windows operating systems. So this is preferred for OS servers in real time when you are deploying your applications. That's one reason. And another reason is like when you are using DevOps tools, majority of the DevOps tools needs Linux environment, particularly the native operating system should be Linux. When you take up a Docker, of course, Docker is initially natively for Linux systems. But of course, now you have Docker for Windows also. But still, Docker with Linux is more widely used. And Ansible, okay, Ansible, the controller machine, the master node, let's say, needs again Linux environment. So majority of the tools, DevOps tools again needs a Linux platform, depending on all the concerns, right? Based on all these concerns. So we'll be learning, we'll be working with the Linux operating systems here. So as we work with the Linux operating system, we shall get used with some command line experience on Linux. Okay. Before we proceed, let us also talk about how do you create now. Okay, my laptop is Windows. How do we get a Linux virtual, or else how do you have a Linux environment, isn't it? I'll talk about that as well. See here, let me talk about the operating system a definition. Like, it's a software that acts as an interface between computer hardware components and the user. See here the diagram, end user, this is ourselves, right? I'm this end user. I'm using my laptop. So there's a hardware with some memory, CPU, input output devices, and so on. Here is the operating system. Okay, I'll put some operating system so that I can work with any of the applications. So it works like a layer. See, this is your operating system, which works a layer, which enables you to use your computer or a laptop. Yeah. So that's an operating system. And kernel. Yeah. When we talk about operating system, we should talk about another important component called kernel. See, kernel is like a heart of an operating system. It's a major, the main component which does the actual task. Means till now we said that, okay, operating system is allocating resources to your applications like memory, CPU, and whenever any application fail, it will release the memory, all this resource allocation, the memory management, the files, all these were managed, the security, all of them is taken care by the operating system. But actually in the operating system, which component is doing it? The component which is doing the actual task is the kernel. Kernel is like a heart of the operating system which performs all these tasks like a communication, resource allocation, memory management, security, networking. All this is done by this kernel. Okay, that is the actual component. That's the heart of your operating system. Again, there are different types of kernels like monolithic kernel, microkernel, and all. We need not go into that depth and learn the underlying components of the OS. Just understand there are different kernels used. Okay, and kernel is the main component in the operating system. Now, let us see the differences between Linux and Windows operating systems in more detail. If you talk about Linux operating system, it's an open source, like it's a free to use. Whereas Windows is not an open source and it is expensive. Like, you know, right? You have to buy the Windows license. Whereas with the Linux, that's not the case. It's an open source and it is completely available for free. And Linux file system means whenever you create any files in Linux, so when you create any files and folders in Linux, they are case sensitive. Means there is a difference between small case and the uppercase, like lowercase letters and the uppercase letters in the files. Like, let's say I have created some file. Okay, in Linux, if I create a file like this, let's say file 1, this is different from this one, right? So it's a case sensitive in Linux. Files and folders, the names are case sensitive. That's not the case with a Windows. And Linux uses monolithic kernel. Like I told you, right, there are different types of kernels. Monolithic kernel may consume more resources, but it makes the system work very faster. Okay, whereas Windows, it is lightweight kernel, but it makes the system a bit slow. Its performance is not so great as a monolithic kernel. Okay, and efficiency wise, like I said, because it doesn't have the GUI, it works really faster. And also, whenever you want to manage like 100 files or you want to create 100 folders, rather than GUI, command line will be more effective, right? We'll see that also. I'll show you the command line and GUI for both the tasks. And yeah, it is Linux operating systems are more effective to use when you have to manage with a huge number of files and folders or huge number of resources. And again, the path separator, the slashes are different. Once we get into Linux, you'll understand it. And Linux is very secure, right? Like virus attacks are not there in Linux when compared with Windows. So these are all the major differences with the Linux. And that's why the server operating systems used in real time are more Linux systems. Okay, So now, yeah, like we discussed for DevOps, how does it help DevOps? Like these are all the reasons. Apart from this, another reason is majority of the tools, like I said, needs Linux environment. Okay, that's another reason for using Linux for DevOps. Now, okay, fine. We understood what is an operating system and the importance of Linux. Now I want to have a Linux machine, but let's suppose my laptop is, see here, my laptop is Windows. How can I have a Linux machine here? Yeah, that's where comes the concept of virtualization. Meaning, see, if we have discussed just now, we have discussed about our operating system, right? This is my hardware, means my laptop. On that I have got my Windows OS. So on that I'm running some apps. Suppose now I want to use Linux, means again I need to have another laptop or another computer. On that I need to have again some Linux operating system. Then I can use it for my DevOps or whatever, right? Means another machine, another hardware we need. So this is how I need to have another Linux machine. But rather than having another laptop or another computer, can I have my Linux operating system in the same laptop? Is that possible? Means, see, this is the hardware. On that I am having Windows operating system. Can I allocate some of these hardware resources and can I manage a Linux operating system here? Can we do that? So that's where the concept of virtualization comes in. So what is virtualization? Virtualization uses software to create an abstraction layer over computer hardware that allows the hardware elements of a single computer, processors, memory, storage, and more, to be divided into multiple virtual computers, commonly called as virtual machines. See, don't get confused with this definition. I'll explain you here every single word in detail. See here. Instead of launching another totally new laptop, what I can do, this is my laptop, okay? This is my laptop. On this, I'm having Windows. Now, on the same system, I would like to launch my Linux virtual machine. So what I'll do, I will use a software called Hypervisor. Okay, I'll install this hypervisor on my Windows. Following all of you? So I'll install a software called Hypervisor. Hypervisor is a software with which you can create your virtual machines, or else you can launch your virtual machines. You can allocate your virtual machines. Means this will help you to create a virtual machine. Again, what is a virtual machine? See, virtual machine is nothing but another machine which runs on your main operating system. Main operating system or a host operating system is my Windows. Above that, once I installed Hypervisor, I could create some virtual machines. Okay, meaning virtual machine is again like another machine. It will have its own operating system. Above that, you can put any apps you want. This operating system could be any operating system irrespective of this host operating system, right? And okay, fine, this is some virtual machine one. It may need some 4 GB memory. So that will be allocated from my laptop, from my hardware. Okay, let's say this needs 4 GB, this another virtual machine 4 GB. Okay, total 8 GB is consumed from my laptop. Got it, all of you? So instead of having another hardware and another laptop, in the same laptop, I could create some virtual machines using this hypervisor. Virtual machine is nothing but it's like another machine which will have its own operating system. But how does the operating system have the resources? They'll be consuming again from the same hardware. Okay, so this is how you can create some Linux virtual machine on your Windows laptop and use it for your lab purpose. And what are the examples of this hypervisor software? Anyone? Have you ever used some hypervisors and created any virtual machines? Sorry? Come again, please. I could not. Yeah, Oracle VirtualBox is an example of hypervisor. VMware, VM Workstation, these are all examples of hypervisor. So in my laptop, I'll install this Oracle VirtualBox. With that, I can create some virtual machines. Okay, these virtual machines will not have their own hardware. They will use the hardware resources from my laptop, from my main operating system or the host operating system. So meaning every VM will have its own operating system, which is called guest operating system. Guest operating system sits above the host operating system. Let's say my laptop is Windows. Okay, this virtual machine could be some Linux or any other operating system. It could be some other Windows version, Windows 7, this is Windows, whatever it is. So the operating system of this virtual machine is irrespective of the operating system of your host. But every operating system is consuming the resources of the host operating system. Okay, like I said, let's say 4 GB is allocated to this. 4 GB is allocated to this through the hypervisor. Okay, fine, total 8 GB. Okay, let's say here my laptop is having only 8 GB. Okay, then yeah, your virtual machines will be, performance will be very slow. The performance will be degraded. We cannot launch them properly. We cannot run them because it's running out of resources. Let's suppose you have some 18 GB in your laptop. Then yes, you can allocate them. Making sense means there should be enough resources available for launching your virtual machines. The number of virtual machines I can run depends on the available resources. If I have only 10 GB, if I am allocating 9 GB to the virtual machines, again your laptop performance will be very poor, right? So you should check, check that there are available resources. Depending on that, you can run some virtual machines. So like I said, yeah, that my laptop is Windows. For my DevOps, I want to learn DevOps, so I may create some Linux virtual machine and do hands-on there. Understood the concept of virtualization? This is the concept of virtualization. And the machines we are creating are called as virtual machines. Means you can have multiple VMs running on your computer this way. Let's suppose I want a Linux, some Linux version here. Let's say, see, there are different distributions in Linux. Like you have versions in Windows, there are different distributions in Linux, like Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat. Okay, different distributions, Debian systems, different distributions of Linux. Like you have different versions in Windows, like Windows 10, Windows 7, and so on. Okay, so any let's say I want some Ubuntu Linux here. Here I want Red Hat. I may have any distributions of Linux and learn DevOps or implement my DevOps strategies. So this is the concept of virtualization and virtual machines. Am I clear till this much for all of you? Understood? Any questions here?
No, madam. It's clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. See, each virtual yes, anyone? Any
operating system.
louder, please. Ashwin, be a bit louder. Hello.
MLCs which operating system.
Sorry, I could not hear anything. Come again, please. Please check your mic and please be a bit louder. Yeah, meanwhile, see, each virtual machine runs on its operating system and it just works like another normal machine. Okay, you can run any applications, you can execute any task. This is how virtual machines work. Similarly, in real time also, your applications will be deployed on some virtual machines. Of course, the underlying infrastructure, this may be a bit different in your companies, in the real projects. Okay, that might be a bit different and it would be like this. See here, it's called bare metal architecture. Meaning, see here, again, you are having some hardware, means some physical server with some CPU, memory, storage, and then again some hypervisor. Above the hypervisor, you can be launching your VMs. Means you will install hypervisor directly on the hardware. This is how we use in the companies in the real projects. Okay, when your infrastructure is very huge, okay, rather than maintaining operating system, you could install hypervisor directly on the hardware. This is called bare metal architecture. This is hosted architecture. This can be used for your personal purpose, like for executing your lab, for learning anything, for experimenting different operating systems. You can use this. In real time also, the concepts are same. Only the difference is your hypervisor can be installed directly on the hardware. That kind of hypervisors are called bare metal hypervisors or bare metal architecture. Means this is a physical server. Those physical servers will be very huge. On that physical server will be having a hypervisor, above which will be having some virtual machines running. This is another type of architecture called bare metal architecture, right? So here these hypervisors examples are ESXi. ESXi is an example of hypervisor which can be installed directly on the hardware without any operating system. Another example is Hyper-V. Here examples are for hypervisor are Oracle VirtualBox, VMware, VM Workstation, and so on. Okay, just understand the concepts are same, but this is the only difference. When your physical server is very huge and you are going to launch huge virtual machines, rather than maintaining operating system, we can install hypervisor directly on the hardware and then run some virtual machines. On this virtual machines, you will be running your applications. You will be deploying your applications. Yesterday we discussed, right, there will be an operations team who will create the servers, who will configure them. This is what they does. They'll have some physical servers. Above that, they'll install hypervisor, create a virtual machines, and so on. Understood all of you what is a hypervisor, what is a virtual machine? Yep. Now, yeah, for our lab purpose in our computer, we can just go and install a hypervisor and create a VM. Okay, now, okay, fine. We'll go to our laptop. We'll install a hypervisor. I'll install some VM. But for our DevOps pipeline creation, for our DevOps CI/CD implementation, we may use at a time some 4 virtual machines, right? And if I keep on increasing a lot many virtual machines on my laptop, right, it may just hang up, correct? Also, I need to manage all of them. If something goes wrong, I should install this virtual machine again. A lot of underlying setup, right? A lot of underlying setup, a lot of management I should do. Correct? Similarly, here also, let's say this kind of infrastructure is managed by the companies in their own data centers. Companies will have their own data centers, right? So they should manage this kind of infrastructure on their own data centers. That's called on-premise setup. For managing this kind of infrastructure, there'll be a separate team of people who will be managing this hypervisors, virtual machines. It takes a lot of time to do this, and always a team should be managing this infrastructure, maintaining it, monitoring it. Takes a lot of time, lot of effort. Something goes wrong, that should be handled, and again it's costly. Creating physical servers, this a huge physical box is very costly. Okay, about that they have to create the servers. All this is very costly, and also you need to manage this infrastructure always, all the time. Means let's suppose, okay, we are running some application, company is running some application. This application has business hours or else peak hours of business from morning 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the morning. Okay, so this time they need more servers, and rest of the time, okay, like the other time of the day, the servers are just sitting idle. Means resources are not consumed totally, but you should pay for the entire infrastructure. Am I correct? Got the point, all of you? So let me summarize again. A separate team should be there to manage this kind of infrastructure. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's very costly. Physical servers, huge physical servers are very costly. managing the virtual machines. There should be always a team working on it. The people will be working in shifts. Okay, operations team, there'll be people in rotational shifts, always watching or managing this kind of infrastructure. Also, sometimes the servers may be idle. The virtual machines may be idle when there is no, when there is a off business hours. But still, all this infrastructure should be paid, right? So managing infrastructure on their own data centers is going to be very costly, tedious, and needs a lot of effort. That's called on-premise infrastructure. So similarly, if for our lab purpose also, if I have to create 4 virtual machines in my laptop, I have to manage them always. I have to start, stop, allocate resources, see that my laptop is having enough resources. All this is going to be challenging, right? So my laptop may be just hanged up. It may be running out of resources. I cannot launch other apps when I am using this VMs because there are no enough resources. So what can we do? Is there any solution? The solution is cloud. That's where cloud comes into picture. What is this cloud? Companies, rather than managing the infrastructure on their own data centers, on-premise infrastructure, rather than doing it, they can use the resources from cloud. Similarly, for our lab purpose, I don't want to spin up virtual machines and put a lot of load on my laptop. Rather, also a lot of time, effort. I should be managing them always from my end. I should take care of them on my own. Rather, I'll use some virtual machines from cloud. Right? So what is cloud now? Let's talk about what is cloud, why we need it. So what is cloud? On-demand computing resources delivered to us over the internet is nothing but cloud. It's called basically a cloud computing, or else simply you can call it as a cloud, right? So what is this? See, I need some virtual machines. So I can just create some virtual machines, some VMs. Yeah, I can create some virtual machines on cloud. Okay, I'll just go to the console, I'll launch a console, just create some virtual machines. And whatever virtual machines I create will be again, of course, the same architecture. Okay, they'll be running on some data centers, but those are not my own data centers, or else companies will not be using their own data centers, whereas those are data centers of cloud provider. Okay, the same setup is there again, like we discussed. You install a hypervisor on the physical servers, above that you have a virtual machines. The same kind of data centers will be managed by cloud providers. You need not work on those data centers, you need not take care of managing them. Okay, you can just create those virtual machines without managing the underlying data centers. This will be taken care by the cloud providers. Right, means I just need some VM. I'll just demand those VMs, right? So I'll get the VMs. I'll pay for those VMs only, and I pay only for what I have used. Means it's a metered. Metered means, let's say I have used these VMs for 5 hours. I have to pay only for that. Okay, so they are metered, self-service. You don't need a separate team. No separate team needed to manage infrastructure on a cloud. DevOps team will manage themselves. Or else if you are not using cloud, yes, there will be a separate team called operations team who will manage the data centers, on-premise kind of setup. But a DevOps person can just go to the cloud console. Okay, they can create some resources and use it, right? So that is what is cloud. And yes, in our course, we'll be talking about AWS, Amazon Web Services, a great cloud provider. So I'll request some virtual machines from this AWS data center. So if something gone wrong, the crashing, recovery, backup, all these will be taken care by AWS. And we should pay only for what we use. Of course, for our lab purpose, we don't go for paid accounts. We also have a free accounts. Okay, some quota, some free tier is there. So within those limits, we can create our instances and use them for our lab. Got it, all of you? What is cloud? You don't need a separate team to manage the infrastructure. It is very fast. Within few seconds or few minutes, you can spin up your infrastructure, your virtual machines. So it's a quite fast. Okay, it's on demand. Whenever you want, you can get them. It's metered. You pay only for what you use. Self-serviced. No separate team is required to manage your infrastructure on the cloud. So these are all the advantages. Basically, another important thing, you need not work on the underlying infrastructure like the hardware components, whether the server is crashed, whether to have a recovery, backup, all these would be taken care by the cloud provider. Okay, we'll talk about the cloud more. We are having again a separate chapter on AWS cloud computing. But here I just want to introduce the way we are going to use instances, right? So there are so many cloud providers in the market. The more widely used are like, see here, this is a Google trend report from Google trend report, the latest Google trend reports. When you compare, different providers are AWS, GCP, Azure, Linode, and so on. Okay, AWS is clearly the winner. Of course, Azure is also gaining importance. But if you understand one cloud environment, you can work with any other environments. They would be similar. The concepts would be similar. And AWS is very widely used than any other cloud provider, because AWS server capacity is 6 times huge than any other cloud providers. Okay, what is that all about? We'll talk about cloud in a separate chapter. This much is enough for us to get started and create our instances. So now we shall go to AWS. We'll create a free account there, like a free tier eligible account, and we'll create some virtual machine like a Linux virtual machine, and we'll start working with it. So before we proceed, any more questions from anyone else? Following all of you? So now how to create a free AWS account? Like in the yesterday, I have shared you some documentation. Have you all received it? Here I have shared you a folder called Lab Setup Document on AWS. I believe you all have got access to that. Here there is a document called in EC2 instance creation on AWS. What is this EC2 instance? EC2 instance is nothing but a virtual machine on AWS. Okay, rather than creating virtual machine on our local computer, we are going to create a virtual machine on this AWS platform. So if you just go here, first you need to create a free account on AWS. Okay, how this free account works, all the information is available. Yeah, can you see that free tier availability? This is about EC2. You will also have the free tier of your service, I mean of your account, pricing, create a free account, and yeah, see here, when you are trying to create a free account, how many hours of free account you have? See, when you create a free account on AWS, means free tier eligible account, it's a free for 12 months. For 12 months, you can use the services of AWS for free, but you should be using them within the limits. Means, see, there are again so many services in AWS. There are so many services in AWS. You need not learn all of them, or you need not worry about all of them. We'll be using a couple of them. We'll talk about those services later. We'll be creating a virtual machine now. So if you see here, free tier eligibility means it's a 12 months free, means for 1 year, and 750 hours of virtual machine, 750 hours of EC2 instances you can use per month. Okay, every month you will get this 750 hours of EC2 instances, which will be quite good enough for our learning purpose. Okay, so now just go here and create a free account. You should be seeing an option here to create a free account. So when you go and click this create a free account, see all these steps were there here in this document along with the screenshots. Can you all open the document from your end? Have you all the document with you?
Yes.
So just see here, follow these steps. There were some 6 steps, okay, which you need to complete from your end. Like any Gmail account or Facebook account, you can create a free account here. Okay, it will be asking for some information like your name, okay, your details. Here you can see the screenshot. Yeah, it will ask you at the end, it will ask you for some credit card details. You can provide the credit card details. It will not deduct the amount. It will just deduct some minimal amount like 2 rupees. It will also credit it back. Okay, it is just for verification. Okay, so put all the invalid information, and once you give the details there, a free account will be created. You will get some free account, and once you go to the dashboard, you can search for EC2 and you'll be seeing a page like this. Those are 6 steps you need to go through. We'll wait here for 2 minutes. Just whoever can do it, like for whoever it's possible, just try to do it. Those
Oh,
6 steps.
yeah. After 5th step, I'm getting 6th step. I'm getting some error. It's
What is that error?
asking to. So it's asking some. Let me tell you. So add another tag, right?
Another?
So add tags.
In the 6th step, here you are getting the tags.
No, 5th step. In 5th step, add tags is showing. So I'm clicking add
Select
tag,
the
add
basic
another
plan.
tag.
Have you selected the basic plan? I think you are
Yeah.
talking about creating the instance.
Yes.
No, I am talking about creating the account. We are still here. We'll come to that part later.
Okay.
Okay, I think you are talking about the 9th or 11th step, I think. Okay, please wait. Don't give any tags. Just click on next. So have you all created the account, a free account? Whoever completed, please confirm me.
Hi Preeti, we haven't received any document from your end. So have you
Have you
shared
sent me
any?
your test email? Have you sent me your email ID? Whoever
Okay,
shared the email
should
IDs
I
with me,
send one to your WhatsApp, or like how it works?
you can do anyway. You can email me or you can send me your email ID in the WhatsApp. If you are in a group,
Sure.
you can post it in the group. Anything is fine. Like
Okay,
yesterday, I have requested everyone to send a test email or else share your email IDs. Whatever email IDs I have received, I have shared this document for all of you so that we could get to our lab today. If whoever not received, send those email IDs now. Okay, I'll share it in some time after the class. Now you can listen. So just create a free account. Once
Madam,
free
there are
account
total
is
5 steps, right? There are total 5 steps to create an account, right?
create a free account, 5 steps. Yes.
Okay.
To create a free account, first 5 steps. Okay, once you got the account created by choosing the basic plan, 6th step is log into your AWS console, like a management console. Okay, so now I have got my account already, so just sign in. See here, you will see this kind of page. Okay, here you should go to EC2. EC2 instances are nothing but virtual machines on AWS, Elastic Compute Service. Right? See, these are some virtual machines which I have already created. Now let us create some virtual machine. See, whoever has no possibility to execute the steps, listen, watch the recording, and you can do the hands-on later. Okay, if you still need any help when you are doing hands-on, you could reach me on the WhatsApp. So now just come to this dashboard, like come to your page, and here you are seeing something like launch instance. Can you see that? Yeah. So just click this launch instance. Even these steps were also there in the document. If you want to quickly refer the document and do it, yes, you can do that. So see, again now to create an instance, there are 7 steps. Can you all see this? 7 steps are there. So when you're creating an instance, when you're creating a virtual machine, you can choose which type of instance you need. Correct? Like whether you need an instance or Linux instance or a Windows instance. Again, in Linux, which distribution you need. So you can go for it. So here I am going to create the first one, and also here you will see free tier eligible, and it is Amazon Linux 2 AMI. And this Amazon Linux 2 AMI is optimized by Amazon, like by AWS, and it is of a kind of CentOS and Red Hat type. Red Hat type systems are more in real projects, so this is the best one to use. Choose this Amazon Linux 2 AMI, select this. Okay, also it's free tier eligible, so select this type. Once you choose the AMI means it will tell you which operating system you need. Now, instance type. See, all the 7 steps were also explained here. Amazon. Yes. Anyone having any question? Okay, see here, EC2 provides a wide selection of instance types optimized to fit different use cases. Means for our learning purpose, for our lab, you can go to free tier eligible one, T2.micro. Companies will create huge instances, isn't it? They'll be using a huge virtual machines. See, these are all different types of T2.micro, T3.medium, T3.XR large, and so on. So what is that all about? T2.micro means it will provide you one virtual CPU. Means there'll be CPUs, right? Like dual core, quad core, and all. Similarly, here this T2.micro will provide you one virtual CPU and 1 gigs of memory. Okay, so that is enough for us. So you can go for it. And yeah, see, if you go for huge instances, like you have a T4XR large, see 4 virtual CPUs and 16 gigs of memory, 16 virtual CPUs, and so on. See, 72 virtual CPUs, like in real time, they can be helpful for launching huge instances. So for us, let us select this. Okay, choose this instance type T2.micro and click on next. Next comes number of instances, means number of virtual machines you need. Right now, I need only one virtual machine. Maybe as we go by, we'll be launching multiple VMs, but now one is enough, and leave other details as a default. Okay, don't change anything. Then go to next. Just learn creating a virtual machine. We'll later see modifying these resources. Then the storage also leave the default one. This is 8, that is enough, 8 gigs. Now just go to next. Tags, you don't need to put any tags. Again, go to configure security group. Okay, here you can just create a security group, new security group. Already SSH is there. What is this SSH? We'll learn. There is some concept called SSH in Linux. We'll be learning it as we go by. For now, just select this. Okay, and means just create a new security group. It will give some name. It's like a firewall. Okay, adding some firewall rules. Just review and launch your instance. So once you are done, it will show you all the steps we have configured. Then once you confirm with everything, launch it. See, please listen here. Whenever you are creating your instance, it will ask you, choose an existing key pair or create a new key pair. Okay, for the first time, if you are creating, you can, if you are creating an instance, you can choose the steps. Create a new key pair. Okay, create a new key pair, give some name to your key pair like ABCD. What is this key pair? We'll learn it. There is some underlying concept behind this. a concept called SH. We'll learn that later. So till then, just choose the, put some key pair name like ABCD, and you should download the key pair. Okay, we need it to connect to the instance. So just download the key pair. See, it will be downloaded as a PEM file. Can you see that? So just keep the key file and keep it safe, secure in your system, and launch the instance. That's all. Your instance will be launched. Click on view instances. See, here is the instance coming up. It was showing like it was pending. It will be launched with all the network configurations done. It will be launched with the storage, everything set with the configurations we have done. In few seconds or in a minute or a two, it will be ready. Can you see that? Instance is ready, it was launched and it was running, right? Okay, fine, my Linux instance is ready for learning. Okay, let's say for Linux demo, it is all ready, all set. Okay, have you all completed? How many of you have completed this instance creation? Anyone doing it now? Or anyone have completed it?
I'm doing right now.
Okay. That's all, only one participant doing it.
I'm already completed, ma'am.
Okay, you have completed it. Good. So whoever completed, just let me know. Whoever completed or whoever doing it, just let me know. I want to know how many of you are trying it. And whoever can't do it, you can also do after the class. So, okay, fine. My instance is ready. So we'll just wait for 1 minute. Whoever in pending, you can finish, or else whoever not completed, just leave that and listen. After the class, you can do it. So my Linux instance is ready. Now we have to connect to it, right? And learn Linux basics, some Linux commands, and then slowly we'll install the Linux tools like a DevOps tool, the DevOps tools, and we'll start our hands-on. So how to connect to this instance? If you just go to the folder I have shared you, see LAMP setup on AWS, this is the folder I have shared with all of you. Whoever didn't get it, I'll share it. You can send a test mail to my email ID. I'll share my email ID in a while. So this is the one we have done till now, the first document. Now how to connect it? There are again 3 ways to connect to it. Okay, I'll show you all of them. Before that, whoever didn't receive the document, okay, didn't receive this documentation, you could send an email, test mail to this email ID. Okay, so that you can get the recordings and the documentation as well. Okay, I'll just place it here so that send an email, test mail, so that I could share the documents whoever didn't receive. So coming back. Yeah, so my instance is ready. How to connect to this? There are multiple ways. Now first I'll show you a quick way to connect. Just select the instance. At the top you will see a connect button. Click that. Okay. You will see an option, a tab called EC2 Instance Connect. Okay. You can connect to this instance as a quick connection, browser based connection. Just go to the tab, click on connect. See here. Right, you are connected as, what is this EC2 user? EC2 user is the default user on this system. Like we'll be having some users on Windows, right? Like a regular user, admin user and all. So EC2 user is a normal user. So it will show you with what user have you logged in and the IP address of your instance. If you just go to your instance, select this virtual machine. See, it has got some public IP and private IP. What is the difference between them? We'll discuss later. So it will show you that particular IP address and the username. So it's basically command line, right? You don't have a GUI like in Windows to double click and open the windows, open the folders and files. You have to do everything from the command line, but it would be very simple and it would be very much effective, like when you're working with huge files and folders, huge number of files. If you want to do any task, this would be more effective method. So rather than directly executing some Linux commands, like ls is the basic, the first Linux command. Ls means it will list all the files and folders in that directory. Okay, so rather than showing the commands here, let me show you the command line. Let's have some command line experience in our Windows first. Okay, then we'll go for those Linux commands on our Linux instance. Shall we proceed? Good to go? Yeah. We'll execute commands here tomorrow. This is one way to connect. There are other ways to connect to this instance via putty, via git bash. Those things we'll see later. Now what shall we do? Just come to your Windows. See here in Windows, if you want to create folder or if you want to open any folder, what do? You just double click and open this way. Correct? You will open this way. Or else if you want to create a folder, right click, new, create a folder. Or else if you want to create a file, new file or Word document or whatever. This is how we do it, right? Maybe if I want to copy, again right click, copy and paste it. Right? Or else you can do it in another way through command line, isn't it? You can just go to your start menu, command prompt. Yeah, from your command prompt you can do the same, right? Like if you want to check the files, okay, here there's a command line, right? These Linux commands will not work, but yeah, you can use cd command to go to any particular directory and all. So first have some Linux or a command line experience in Windows, so that you could easily understand the commands before we go for Linux operating system. So in Windows, if you want to have some bash experience or a Linux command line experience, you can install something called git bash in Windows. So what shall we do? Just go to your browser, git bash, download for Windows. Okay, when you do that, you will be taken to this official website called downloads git scm. See, even these links were also available. If you go here, AWS instance connection using git bash, here you have the download URL from where you download git bash, everything is there. So just go here, go to downloads and Windows, choose this Windows. See, you will see a download will be started here. Can you see that? Already download is started. I already have downloaded it. Once you download the exe, see here you should download the exe and run the exe. Once you download and run this by running through this wizard, setup wizard, your git will be installed and git bash will be installed. We'll learn git later. First, let us have some command line experience in Windows. So once these steps are done, means you should be going through this installer, all the steps through this installer, through this wizard, and just click on next. Okay, always select the default values, and when you do the next, you will see your git bash installed. See here, it says finish and git bash will be installed. Once you go here, git bash. Okay, git bash provide you some command line experience in your Windows. It provides some bash environment. Okay, so just let us zoom it. Now see here, suppose I want to go to some directory. Let's say I want to go to this particular directory. Okay, copy this address. How do you go to the directory from a command line? Cd, copy that. Okay, you can check here, right? Can you see that you are in this particular directory? ls will list the files in that directory. I don't have any files. So how do you create a file? Of course, one thing is right click, new file you can do, or else from the command line, how do you create it? Touch file1.txt. These are the very basic Linux commands. Okay, I'm showing it on Windows so that you could just relate with the GUI so that you can understand easily. Then we'll go for Linux operating system. Okay, Now touch file 1. Okay, see at the back end, can you see that? That's the reason I'm doing it on Windows. Can you see? At the back end, file 1 is created. Following everyone? So that's how you can create
Madam,
files.
what is that ls?
ls is list. ls is a list command, means it will list all the files and folders in that particular directory. We are in this
Okay.
directory, right? cd
Okay.
means change directory. If you want to navigate to any particular directory, cd change directory, ls lists and files and folders in that directory. Okay.
Okay. Okay, madam. Thank you.
And also, if you want to check in which directory you are in, PWD means present working directory. So where are you working? Because in this command line, maybe I don't know. You could see here or else run PWD. So I am under this path, desktop, new folder 2. And if you do ls, it will list the file. Earlier, I don't have anything. So ls command, there is no output. But now ls command is showing you a file called file1.txt. Okay. Now let's suppose I want to create a copy of this file. How do you do that? Through GUI. Right click, copy. Okay, and you may paste it. Or else from the command line, there is another command called cp. That's a Linux command. See, I am showing you how to navigate, how to work with the files and folders in your Linux operating system. We are not doing it on the Linux end. Okay, we'll just have some understand the difference between GUI and CLI here. Then we'll do it on CLI. Because see, if I run the commands right away here on the Linux operating system, okay, here if I run
Madam, what is
ls,
CLI? Come again? Full form of CLI?
command line.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so if I directly run any commands here, you may not be able to understand as you don't see the GUI. Here at the back end, as I'm showing you the GUI, you can understand it easily, right? So once you understand these basic commands, we'll go and do these operations on Linux virtual machine created on AWS. That is the idea. Okay, so now if I want to copy this file through the command line, copy file 1. I want to copy this and create a file called, let's say, file2.txt. Can you see at the back end? Interesting, isn't it? It's very simple. That's all, right? So because see, like I said, if you have 100 files, if you want to work with them, working with the GUI will not be effective. You have to use the command line. So that's how you do. Now again list, ls will list the files there. Yes, I have 2 files. If you want to delete it, these are the very basic operations, right? If you want to enter into any particular system and if you want to do, these are the basic things you do, creating files, folders and all. So that's what we are doing. So if you want to create any file, rm file1.txt, right? So that should delete the file. Now, can you see at the back end, file 1 is gone, only file 2 is there. Now, if you do ls, yes, you have got the file. Following everyone? So, to have this shell experience, you can install this git bash and work with it. Now, to clear the terminal, there is a command called clear, which will clear the terminal. And if you see the list of the commands we have executed till now, history. Okay, of course, these are other commands earlier we did. So these are the commands we have done. Simple ls, touch will create a file, present working directory, pwd, ls lists the files and folders in that directory, cp command to copy the files, rm to remove the files, like deleting the files. Okay. Now let us do the rest. So I have file 2. Now what is there in this file 2? Like if I want to open and check, I want to open and check the content inside the file. Like in the GUI, you will double click and do that, right? So here, how can you do that? Cat, the file name. Okay. See, cat means it's like a read command. Okay, it will open the file and show you the content. But I don't have anything here. So when I run the cat command, no output is present. Yep. With the, yes, anyone speaking? So with a little practice, you can use to get this command line experience. It would be very comfortable to work this way rather than the GUI. So cat, it's not showing anything. If you want to open the file and edit it, there are some editors like Vim editor on Linux, VI editors like you have Notepad, Notepad++, and so on. I'll show you these editors later. Okay, I'll teach you those editors later. Let me show you another command. There is some simple command called echo command. Echo, double quotes, let's say my first basics on Linux. Okay. What is the print command does? Like you might have seen some print command, right? In any programming language, it will print the message. The same thing. Echo will print the message you have given there, right? So that's all echo command is. It's just like print command to print any variable values or anything you can use it. Okay. So now what I want is this echo command output. I'm going to use double arrows. Those are redirection arrows. This output, I would like to place it into this file2.txt. Okay, now output is placed into the file. Now if you read this, can you see that? This is another way to put some content into the file. Of course, there are Vim editors with the best method, but I just want to show you. The output of this command is given as an input to this file. Now you cat the file, you can see the contents of it. Okay, so that's how you create a file. How did we create a file? Let me summarize this. Yeah, touch command will help you create it. I'll provide you all the commands. Okay, you need not write it. I'll provide all of them in the document. So just listen. So touch command will help you create a file. Okay, and then CP command will help you copy the file and create a file with any name. You can choose the name like copy, like the file, existing file, old file, and the new file name, right? And then rm command to delete any files. Delete the file. Okay, clear, that will clear the terminal. As the name says, it's very easy to remember. Clear command. History, list of all the commands you have used. Cat command shows the contents of the file. Just for quick recollection, I am writing here. I'll provide all the document. Echo command is a simple print command. Understood these basic commands? Creating file, copying a file and creating another file, deleting it, writing some content to it. Are you all good? Everyone, I want to see response from all of you. Following,
Madam, can you tell me again PWD?
Present working directory. Yeah, PWD is present working directory. Means in which directory you are in. Current directory or else present working directory. In which directory you are in. Okay, that will show you the directory in which folder. Directory is nothing but a folder. In Linux, we refer them as directories.
Okay, madam. Thank you. Yeah.
Any more questions? Understood all of you? Can I get a quick confirmation? Whoever
Madam,
Yes,
clear.
understood.
It's clear.
Yes, Lisa.
Suppose you want to create a folder, then also we have to use touch
No,
command.
no, mkdir. It's
Folder,
another
folder.
command. folder, we'll create it with mkdir, make dir. I'll teach you those commands also. Just I want to confirm till this much before we proceed. To create a folders, mkdir means make directory. What name you want to give? I want to give a name as my folder. Okay, that will create a folder. Once it is created, if you want to go into that cd, change directory, my folder. Or else if you are running this command from a different location, you should give the complete path of that particular folder into which you want to navigate to. Okay, we'll do that. Just want to confirm. Are you all good with this? We didn't connect to our instance yet. We just connected, but we didn't run anything there. We'll run those commands on our instance tomorrow. We also did browser based connect. How to connect it in different ways, we'll see that as well tomorrow. Now, okay, I'm in the new folder. If you want to come out of this folder, meaning, see, please listen here. I'm in this new folder. If you want to go back, here you will see up to desktop, right? Go back or up. This is how you go. How do you do that here? One level up if you want to go, cd dot dot. See, I came to desktop now. Do you all see that? Till now I am in this new folder too, but now I came to desktop. If you want to confirm present working directory, I am on the desktop. If you do ls, it will show you everything on the desktop. On desktop, I have some GoToMeeting, I have some GoToMeeting app, HP app, so many things, right? It is listing every folder files there. Okay, now here I want to create another directory on the desktop. Make dir. Let me show you the desktop parallelly so that you could understand that better. Okay, so now make dir. Let me zoom out. So make dir, here I want to create a directory called my folder. Can you see that at the back end? Now if you want to go to that folder, cd my folder. Okay, now ls, no files there, just see here. Okay, now again if you want to create the same way like a touch file2.txt, and again you may add some content, delete it. Of course, rather than echo, you could use some editors like Vim editor, vi editors. We'll talk about those editors also. Tomorrow we'll log into our system, okay, like our virtual machine. I just have shown you some kind of bash environment in our Windows through git bash, some command line experience, and we have learned the basics of creating files and folders. At the back end, you are seeing what is that doing. So tomorrow we shall connect to our instance through browser based connection we did, but this is not the best method. We'll be connecting to this instance. You can connect to this instance via git bash or putty. What is this putty? Git bash? We'll see, and we'll connect to them through those SH clients tomorrow, and we'll do some Linux stuff on the server. That is for next class. Yes, tell me, any questions from anyone?
Can we
Why do
use
you use Git?
Can we?
this in Mac iOS?
Why do you use
Yeah, you can. You can use it in Mac also. You can just launch your AWS console, create an instance from Git bash, you can connect. See, if you want to download Git bash here, just go here for Mac. Okay, download from here. Okay, if it is Windows, download from here.
Okay, good.
Any more
Why do you use
questions?
Git for Windows?
Sorry?
Hello? Why do you use Git for Windows? Direct default command prompt is there in Windows.
Why do you use Git for Windows? Is that your question?
Yes.
We are not using Git at all here. Okay, here I want a Git bash. Git bash is an SSH client. What is SSH? What is SSH client? We will be learning it. Okay, so to use Git bash on Windows, this is the link to download Git bash on Windows. Okay, Git works on multiple operating systems. Git works on Windows, Git works on Linux, it works on Mac as well. To have this SSH client called Git Bash, you get this Git Bash by installing Git. So I just downloaded and installed Git on Windows. Got it, Ashok?
At a time, to create file 100 files at a time. Touch. The use of touch.
I could not hear you. Can you please be a bit louder?
To create at a time 100 files. Use of touch command.
To create 100 files at a time?
Use of touch.
Sorry? Anyone understood his question?
No, Git through Git Bash.
How to create 100 files at a time using this command line? He's asking.
How to create 100 files using this command line? Is that your question, Ashok? Is that you are asking? We'll do that, okay? We'll also work on it. I'll also show you that. So this is the basic understanding of the Linux commands. Okay, tomorrow we'll step into our Linux server and we'll work with many other commands. Okay, before we install our tools and start working with DevOps. Okay, any more questions from your end? Whoever
Madam,
did not receive the documents, do share your email IDs. Yes, Kishore?
will you be sending this recorded session after this
Yes.
meeting?
Yes, recording will be available in the same YouTube channel. Okay, you can
Okay.
get subscribed to the channel to get the recording for today. For few
Okay.
days, for today, I'll post it in the channel directly. So you can get subscribed for the latest updates. Also, once you get subscribed, you'll get the notifications whenever I put anything.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
So that is all from my end. Any questions, let me know, and we'll continue tomorrow from here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then. Bye, everyone. See you all tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all.